Ladies and gentlemen, how are you today? And today, as part of my class, we'll be doing triangles of the neck. I'm not sure if my audio is very audible, but I'm hoping it is because tomorrow I'm giving you a quiz, you guys. Anyway, I'm joking, but today we'll discuss triangles of the neck. I had mentioned that we'll continue with this today. So, today, welcome to, I'll be trying to make medicine as nice as possible. Usually people complain about anatomy, and if it's your first time doing triangles of the neck, welcome. We welcome you to this. It's a very nice topic. I love it so much. Anyway, we'll talk about triangles of the neck, and it will be a very quick, short one. So first, we'll start from the neck. You have a very important muscle that divides. Okay, basically the neck, we have two triangles, the anterior triangle and the posterior triangle. There are other triangles also, but we are trying to focus on these two today. So you have your sternocleidomastoid muscle. The sternocleidomastoid muscle, it's running down obliquely, right, from the mastoid process and the occipital bone to the clavicle and the sternum. And this is where it divides the neck into anterior and posterior triangles. So remember this. The anterior triangle is divided into four triangles: the submental triangle, submandibular triangle, carotid triangle, and the muscular triangle. And then the posterior triangle is divided also into two by the omohyoid muscle into the subclavicular triangle and the occipital triangle. And then next we'll discuss a bit of the contents and the boundaries. That's mainly our topic for today. So we can continue now, right? So for the triangles with the neck, you can have your posterior triangle, where from the posterior triangle, anteriorly it's bounded by the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, and posteriorly it's bounded by the anterior border of the trapezius. Then for the base, you have the clavicle, and the apex, you have the occipital bone. Now, the triangle is divided by the inferior belly of the omohyoid muscle into occipital and supraclavicular triangles. The roof of the triangle, you have skin and the deep cervical fascia. The floor, you have prevertebral fascia. Contents, you find occipital lymph nodes, accessory nerve, greater auricular nerve, and the cervical plexus. For the anterior triangle, we had mentioned it's divided into four triangles, right? Submental triangle, submandibular triangle, the carotid triangle, and the muscular triangle. Posteriorly, it's bounded by the anterior triangle, and it's bounded by the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid. The base is the inferior border of the mandible, right? Remember that. Inferior border of the mandible, and a line from the angle of the mandible to the mastoid process. You very much see it even when you dissect a cadaver. You see this. Anteriorly is the anterior median line of the neck. The apex is at the sternum. Now, this we talked about it just now, that the anterior triangle is bounded superiorly by the lower border of the mandible, posteriorly by the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, and medially by the midline of the neck. And it is covered by the skin, superficial fascia, the platysma, and the investing layer of the deep fascia. Now, under the fascia, two groups of longitudinal muscles extend from the inferior border of the mandible to the sternum. And this is where we talk about now the hyoid bone, which is found at the level of C3 vertebra, because it provides an attachment to two groups of muscles. You have your suprahyoid muscles and your infrahyoid muscles. These muscles, they're also called strap muscles due to their flat shape. And from the suprahyoid muscles, this is where you have your what? Your digastric muscle. Your digastric has an anterior belly and a posterior belly. And this is usually used when dividing the triangles of the anterior triangle, where you have the submental triangle, and you also have the submandibular triangle, right? Muscular triangle, right? And the carotid triangle. Now, anyway, from the anterior triangle, we had mentioned we have suprahyoid muscles, and these are supra above the hyoid bone, and therefore a number, just four. digastric, stylohyoid, mylohyoid, and geniohyoid. These are above the anterior triangle. Then below the hyoid bone, there are 4 in number: the stenohyoid, omohyoid, thyrohyoid, and stenothyroid. These are your 4 muscles, and you're supposed to know exactly how these muscles they go about, right? You're supposed to know everything you can about these muscles. And this is where I'll end this presentation. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.